Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bobble Pod. On this episode, I'm going to be talking about my 3 pillars of paid social media. And I say my 3 pillars of paid social media because this is a 3-pillar, 3-format methodology design that I've created that we apply here at Bobble Digital and that I actually give out in training sessions to clients and to businesses. But before I begin, as always, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe if you're listening on any podcast streaming platform. And if you're on YouTube, hello YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and click on that bell notification to get updates on our weekly episodes. So the 3 pillars of paid social media. Does anybody want to have a guess what that is, Callum? What do you think would be on a 3-pillar of paid social media?
I'd imagine it'll be a little bit of strategy. So, for example, a bit of planning is a part of that sort of 3 pillars of a good social media strategy.
Yeah,
I think it'll be what type of content you're going to make. So, knowing what's the most important bit of that sort of type of content that you're going to use.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of a third one, really.
He was cheating then. He was looking at my list. My piece of paper then. It's all right. It's all right. We've got Josh as well. Here, Josh, you do a lot of video work. And a lot of your video work is then placed on social media. What would you say? I know the views can't and the listeners can't really hear, but what would you say?
I'd say the actual delivery of it, of how it's posted and how it's actually put out there to everyone.
Okay. So Callum says planning, strategy. Josh says, the delivery, the execution of it. Now, the 3 pillars of paid social media, I'll see some nice infographics if you're watching on YouTube, is actually objective, which is pillar 1, audience, which is pillar 2, and message, which is pillar 3. All 3 are needed for you to have a successful paid social campaign and platform. And I'm going to dive into what I mean by each one. So the objective, essentially, let's get straight to it. What is the goal or objective of the campaign? So you're right there, Callum. So there's an element of planning, strategy, what you want to achieve. What I always hear when we go to clients or prospects is that, we want to be in social media. But the question is why? We want to increase our brand awareness. Okay, well, that's a potential goal and objective. But then they're like, run brand awareness campaigns, yeah, but it didn't deliver. Well, what was the KPI? Well, to drive sales. No, your actual, objective was to drive brand awareness. And that's really, really critical because if you are playing in the back end of platforms like Meta Business Suite, which is where you do your Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger ads. So if you go into, let's say, LinkedIn Campaign Manager or Business Manager, or if you go into TikTok advertisers and you go into the back end and create all these campaigns, whether it's Twitter ads, all these paid social platforms have a back end system. And they follow these 3 principal elements within any campaign structure. And the first being objective. And if you say you want to do brand awareness, there's an actual objective for you to select within the Meta Business Suite when you're creating a new campaign and ads manager that says brand awareness or traffic or conversion, sales, shopping, lead generation. These are the different types of objectives you can create from. And depending on what your objective and goal is, depends on how you target that specific audience. Also depends on how you deliver and execute your ad to that specific audience. The objective is the most fundamental pillar. If you don't know what it is you're trying to achieve on social media, if you don't know what your objective is, if you don't set out some smart objectives, or if you don't set out any measurable KPIs from it, you don't know you don't know your objective, then how the hell are you going to know who your audience are? How the hell are you going to know how to target that specific audience as well as reach them with a specific message? So first pillar, very, very, very simple. And you can go into LinkedIn Campaign Manager, you can go into Meta Business Suite, and you can go to the back end. You'll see every time you create a new campaign, it says what is your objective? What is the KPI you're trying to achieve with that specific campaign? Traffic awareness, lead generation. For example, if it's lead generation, your ad will then go into a lead gen form as opposed to drive traffic to a website. If it's brand awareness, there's hardly going to be a call to action. You want to focus more on kind of video, and that's going to generally engage more engagement, comments, and likes, and potentially followers on your pages. So if you do a brand awareness campaign, don't expect to see conversions. If you try to do a traffic campaign, don't expect a lot of leads unless you have a specific strategy or tactic in place. So that's the first objective. That is the first pillar, should I say? That's what I meant to say. That's the first pillar, the objective. Pillar 1's done. It's the foundation pillar of all three. That leads into pillar 2, audience. Now, I always say to customers, you should know who your audience is. If you can't profile your audience into different audience segments by now, you are in trouble. Because who are you trying to target? Where are you spending all that media spend to try and get that focus, to try and get that attention of your desired audience, to get them to go to your website, to get them to complete the purchase, whether it's B2B or direct to consumer? It comes down to really knowing who the audience is. And I always say focus on basic metrics like Google Analytics 4 now. We should all be on GA4 because that tells you a lot about A, where your audience is coming from, B, who your audience are in terms of basic demographics like age and gender, and other wider demographics into like such as like keywords that you've been looking or they've been searching for to go to your website. However, on social media, you want to try and profile your audiences in a bit more because there's different type of targeting options to your audiences, from demographics to interest to behaviors. And it varies by platform as well. So on Meta Business Suite, you can target by demographics, so stuff like age, gender, job titles, household composition, family, type of education, if they're a family with kids, are they a household owner, etc. So if you're doing mortgage campaigns, you might want to see if they've recently moved. You want to look at their interest in general, and those interests can be around hobbies, sports, fitness, health, food, social activities, music, anything. So obviously you want to pick the interests that are more relevant to you, and then you can look at behaviors like their shopping patterns, the likelihood of them wanting to convert online or through Facebook in terms of a payment made on their mobile in the last like 30, 60, 90 days. But that then again changes to platforms like LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, it's more B2B. So you can break it down by job title, job sector, education type, education level, employee size, if you're a director, level of seniority within the company. So depending on the platform, depending on who you're trying to go for, there's different types of targeting elements that come into play. And what you find is that's the second stage, whether you're in Twitter ads, whether you're in TikTok ads, whether you're in LinkedIn Campaign Manager, whether you're in Meta Business Suite, that fundamental pillar comes after. Well, select your objective. Now, who it is you're trying to target to achieve that objective, your audience. So defining that audience is very, 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 very important. And like I said, it flows on naturally from each stage in each different platform to say, right, well, now we know what you're trying to do, who it is you're trying to achieve. And the more you can define that audience, the better. And there's certain metrics you want to keep an eye out for on the key platforms. For example, on LinkedIn, it'll tell you how good your audience is based on the potential number of leads or visits or conversions you might achieve. Facebook does the same thing. It comes up with whether your audience is too broad or too narrow or defined. And it has like a speedometer scale. And I always say you want to be in the middle. You want to be green with the audience. It also tells you the volume size that you might reach and how many people you might reach per day based on budget. So understanding, your budget depends on how much of your audience you might reach. So understanding who your audience is very, very important. I've mentioned this a few times. We use a platform called Global Web Index at Bobble Digital. And Global Web Index, once we put in those specific elements of profiling who the audience is, let's say by age, gender, location, house, and any kind of like core audience insights like interest or work elements like job titles, etc., or industry or senior decision-making elements, we can then profile that audience into what platforms they're doing. So if they are on Facebook, if they are on LinkedIn or Instagram, what type of content they use or consume. But also we can upload and sync that audience profiling into the individual platforms like TikTok, like Meta, like platforms like Google, because you have a basis of who you're trying to target. And one of the key features, what you can do in platforms, well, within paid social platforms, is once you've built an audience, you can save it. So it makes it easy again and again and again to do multiple campaigns to that same audience if you want to push out seasonal offers to that audience. From that audience, you'll understand what's working, what's not working based on the deliverables and the data that you see. So understanding your audience, being specific, being defined about who they are, because that's the next thing all these platforms, as you're building out your campaign, ask for and break down in detail. And then that leads to pillar 3. Also a fundamental pillar because it's all about the message. It's all about the type of creative you're using. So you go into these paid social platforms, you select your objective, you understand what you want to do because you've done the planning, the strategy beforehand. You already know who you're trying to target that message to, well, achieve that objective for, should I rephrase? But it's all about the message, because if the message doesn't communicate what it is you want to say to that said audience, it's just going to go over the head. We consider, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see I'm pointing to my phone, how many ads you'll see within a social media platform, an app like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, for example, on a constant basis. How many ads you see per day is in the thousands now. And it's all about recall. And if I ask someone to do a simple test and think of how many ads did you see yesterday, or it could be you're listening to this podcast in the later in the evening, how many ads did you see today that you can actually recall? Try and name them. I'm going to ask Callum this as a little bit of a test. Can you recall any ads that you saw yesterday?
No, not really.
And did you spend any time on social media yesterday?
I spent a little bit of time on TikTok.
There you go. But you don't recall any of the ads that you saw?
No.
But within that, if you spent even 15 minutes on that platform, you probably saw about between 5 to 10 ads. That seemed like...
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. So you won't really remember it. And that's why the type of creative you use for the message is really important. You've got 2 choices. You can use image if you're on platforms like LinkedIn or Meta, or you want to go for video if you want to make sure you maximize performance on Instagram and TikTok and, let's say YouTube Shorts, for example. So video, which is, I would say, is the preferred against image. I'll give an example with a client of ours, Stockwell Park. We're doing some training with their marketing manager, and we were just going through how to analyze the data within Meta in the ads manager. And there was a campaign, and the video, we looked at video versus image, and their argument was that image does better than video. So we had deep dived into this campaign. We saw that the video campaign had like 139 conversions, and the image campaign had 189. So you're probably thinking, well, actually, yeah, image does better. The image campaign had a lower cost per conversion. The video campaign had a higher cost per conversion. The revenue from the image campaign was around about $4,000. The revenue from the video campaign was $3,500. And instantly the client was like, well, see, look, image is better. But I was like, you haven't really analyzed the data. So we looked at reach and impressions. The video had reached 3,500 people. The image had reached 50,000 people. So more reach, more impressions, a lower click-through rate. So we looked at the revenue. Well, actually, there was only £500 disparity between the video and the image, but the image had like 50 more conversions. It turned out that the average order value for video was like £26, and the average order value for image was £21. That was around about about 20% to 22% average order value increase just from using video. There was a better recall and conversion rate as a result of reach and people that clicked through to actually converting on the video. So when we deep dived into the analysis, it turned out that video was working better as a creative type. And on platforms like, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, no matter what the platform is, you only really have anywhere between 5 to max 15 seconds to get your message across. So we're not talking about big TV productions, elements like that. And it all depends on the type of ad format you choose. Now, with images, you can do image posts, you can do carousel ads. But with videos, you've got the reels, you've got the stories, you've got the video feeds, you've got the in-stream video elements. I'm going to say Instagram focuses more on video, but what we heard about the algorithm was that they're focusing more on carousels, potentially. So that'd be interesting. But if you look at the success of platforms like TikTok, it's all based on video content. You can't get away with an image and expect a lot of reach and engagement or conversions on a platform like TikTok that has over 1 billion active users per month. It's all video engagement. So you've got to look at, well, the ad format also directly impacts the objective as well. So if you said I was going to do lead gen campaigns, then it's the ad format has to be, and the ad and the creative and the messaging, the headline, the description has to be enticing or support that objective, that creative kind of ad format. That's going to lead into a form to encourage them to click on a call to action, to go onto the form, to complete it so you get the data and you can retarget or follow up with a phone call. If it's shopping or conversional, then within platforms like Meta, you can introduce, shopping ads. So then you want to make sure that the right imagery of certain products or video placements of that product then come through. There's loads of different elements of considerations. You only have a short amount of characters for your headline and description on platforms like Meta, which obviously has to take into account different platforms like Instagram and Facebook and Messenger. Then you got LinkedIn from a B2B perspective. Then you got TikTok, where it's all about the actual messaging within the video and the creative itself. I always say you should focus on what I call grand slam offers. Now, there's a book by Alex Hormozi. I don't know if anyone's read it, but you must know Alex Hormozi. He's really good with quotes. He came out with a book called $100 Million Offers, How to Make Offers So Good People Feel Stupid Saying No. I read the book and it talks about grand slam offers. And this book's got over 250,000, copies sold worldwide. And it makes sense because you need a strong message and a strong call to action in the pillar that is message. For example, the example I think he gave was around a sock company that was selling socks for $9.99 or 2 for $11.99 or 4 for $19.99. So what are you going to choose in that instance? Are you going to buy 4 for $19.99 or are you going to buy 1 for $9.99? You end up buying 4 because you realize actually it works out a lot cost effective than buying, or even buying 2 is more cost effective. Now the margins within the company are already thought out to assist this kind of offer, but it kind of makes you feel stupid not to get the extra 3 pairs for the price of 1. Now that is a very hardcore sales element, but just look at what some of the bigger brands do with the brand awareness campaigns, the John Lewis's, the Cadbury's, the Coca-Colas, the Red Bulls of the world, but also look at the kind of messages that you read. I'm someone who loves to go to cinemas and not just see the don't just see the film advertisements, to see the actual hardcore advertisements, to see what it is they're doing. When I see an ad on social media, my instinct from my background is like, well, what was the purpose? What was the objective of this campaign? And did I fit the audience demographic? Am I in market for that product? Or is that something I'd be interested in? So if you're going to take anything away, read that book by Alex Hormozi. I actually gave it to my whole team a few months ago to read it and told them to actually test the methodology against certain ad campaigns. Some of my clients are doing really, really, really well as a result of it. But it all comes down to the type of creative, the message you're pushing. And if there's anything that you need to take from the 3 pillars, objective, audience, through to message, then the fundamental one is the message. Because in where the platforms are going, the audience targeting is becoming a bit more limited across paid social media platforms. The objectives are becoming a bit more, defined in terms of the options you have available to you. There's not that many. It's either brand awareness, traffic, or conversion. So it's all about getting that message through trying to get your ideal audience's attention. And to do that, you need to have a message or a video or a creative that really stands out, that's eye capturing, whether it's around seasonal activity or whether you're doing it, just to really get their attention. So if you're going to go away, focus on message more than anything else. And we see this time and time again. We've done all the strategy, the planning, the building of the audience, and then the assets we get from the clients are really, really poor. And we turn around and say, this isn't good enough because the assets aren't really going to help deliver and really entice this audience. We get some results and then you can't really complain. Oh, well, my ads aren't working, or I tried paid social media. But really, did you think about your objective, your audience, and how good that message was? Did you really spend time planning and executing that, doing a strategy beforehand? Well, I hope that episode's been really, really useful to anyone's listening. My 3 pillars of paid social media. We will be launching some information about it as well on our website in terms of what the 3 pillars are, in terms of some elements. But remember, you won't find much reading on this online. This is something I devised myself and come up with as a methodology. Don't forget to obviously like, follow, subscribe. My next podcast has a guest talking about their business journey, which will be really, really good. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell notification. Thank you for listening. I can't wait to catch up with you on our next podcast.